you are interested in is the regulation, or what I'm supposed to talk about is the regulation. So I wanted to start with a little historical overview. When Bitcoin was created in 2009, if I'm correct, and then was not very interesting for a couple of the early years, at least for us regulators or for governments in general. And in 2012 and 2013, the price started increasing. There started to be some interesting things happening in this Bitcoin space. So we started talking with our colleagues in the Ministry of Finance, specifically in our colleagues in Financial Intelligence Unit. This is every government has it. Those are the people who track the money laundering and are interested in suspicious transactions and so on. And also they brought in also the tax authority, and basically the first discussions that took place was, are Bitcoins money, or are virtual currencies money? And we discussed, from their point of view, it would have been easier if we said it's money, all the regulation applies, you have to do all this and that. But we said, well, wait, it's not that easy. It's not money, or at least it's not money as we have it defined in the law that exists. And Czech Republic being, a liberal democracy, basically government can only do what is allowed to do by laws, and whatever is not forbidden, you can do. So we said, laissez-faire. If it's not banned, people can do it. It's not money. If you want to regulate it, you'll have to come up with a specific regulation for this. So after these difficult discussions, the Czech Financial Intelligence Unit published Bitcoin or virtual currencies guidance in 2013, so quite early, I think. And the most important point, you can Google if you're interested and if you speak Czech, but the most important point was that if there is a transaction that involves real money and Bitcoins, and the real money value is over 15,000 euros, you should always treat it as very risky and report it to the financial intelligence people. Then in late 2013, the European Banking Authority, which is one of the pan-European regulators for the banking and payments area, published a warning for consumers on its website. The warning you can also Google and find. This is basically the front page and the executive summary, so to speak. I think this still applies today. If you don't understand what virtual currencies are, how they work, and whether they are worth something, you should stay clear or only play with the money you can lose. So we published this on our website as well. It was published in all the European languages. And together with this, EBA, I'll get to that later. And a couple months later, because we were receiving a lot of questions about what are Bitcoins, do I need, am I regulated? Do I need some kind of license from the central bank? What kind of laws should I follow? So what we do in these cases, we publish a document that basically is called Frequently Asked Question, or answer to an FAQ. So our FAQ from February 2014 called Trading Bitcoins is still on the website. We still if you're interested in the basics, go and read it, but I'll summarize it here. It relates to a couple regulations that you might think could be applicable to virtual currencies. It's the Foreign Exchange Law, it's the AML law, it's the Payment System Act, and also the Capital Markets Law. I'm not really sure what's the proper English word, but capital markets or investment regulation. So the most important thing, Bitcoins are not funds. Funds, it's a concept from European regulation, and it's a general word for all kinds of money that we use today. So banknotes, coins, bank account money, and something called electronic money, which you probably only know if you're a lawyer specializing in European payments, but it's basically the same like bank account money, but you don't have to be you don't have to have a bank license to offer it. You still need a license though for that. So this concept of funds comes actually from piece of EU law called Payment Services Directive, which is now being replaced by PSD2. You probably, or you might have heard about that. And this is something that all the EU member states agree on. maybe except Luxembourg, who gave a license to Bitstamp, but everybody else except Luxembourg agrees Bitcoins are not funds, they're not money as the EU law understands it. So the data in the blockchain, these records of transactions, they're not records of claims on anybody, right? That you have, if you know, your wallet shows you have 5 Bitcoins, that doesn't mean anybody owes you anything, right? If somebody today might be willing to buy, what's the price of Bitcoin today? I don't really, you know, watch it day to day. Is it 6,000? You know, today somebody's willing to give you 6,000 for your Bitcoin, but if tomorrow nobody's willing to give you 6,000, then, you know, you have your Bitcoins, but nobody's willing to buy them from you. So that's the, you know, claims means that you have a right against somebody, but in case of Bitcoins, that's not the case. So from this basics flows that, that means that buying or selling virtual currencies, that does not constitute payment services, right? It's not like moving euros from one bank account to the other. This is, you know, selling some data on the internet, but it's not like moving money from an account to account. And also that the transactions that start, or 2 points here actually. If you sell Bitcoin for real money, that's not regulated, and if you move Bitcoin from one wallet or one account to another, that's also not regulated. Payment services might be provided when you operate an exchange platform, right? Because in that case, you have somebody with Bitcoin, somebody with real money, and a middleman moves the real money from one person to the other. So this movement of euros, dollars, rubles, whatever, that part might be regulated. But also the Payment Services Directive has an interesting and quite complex system of exemptions. So if you're, you know, if you're thinking about running such a platform in Czech Republic, you should probably talk to us and we can figure out whether some of the exemptions applies or not. And another case when you will fall under the payments regulation, if you offer service, I will, you know, you will sell me your Bitcoins, I'll give you euros, and you tell me any account anywhere and I will send you the euros wherever. Because once again, you moving euros from one account to another according to instruction from somebody else. Next, yeah, I already talked about this, buying or selling Bitcoins, including accepting them as payments. That's not supervised by the central bank. It does not constitute payment service, and it does not constitute currency exchange. It's not like exchanging crowns for euros or what have you. Then it gets a little more interesting. As I said, this guidance is from 2014. That's the pre-ICO age, so it doesn't really deal much with ICOs. But first, if you think about trading derivatives that are connected somehow to Bitcoins or other virtual currencies, you know, derivative business is still regulated as derivatives. And if you want to run a fund that invests in virtual currencies, that is regulated as well as investments. But as I said, you know, maybe if you're interested in ICO regulation, I think something will happen quite soon. You know, some clarity needs to be provided to the market in Europe, but I'm not the one who is working on that, and I don't think I can give you more details at the moment. Now, back to the EBA, this pan-European regulator. They created a virtual currencies task force in 2014, in which Czech Central Bank participated. And EBA produced a document that's called Opinion. Basically, you know, it's an analysis and then recommendation for the European legislators. So, you know, we discussed the benefits, but as regulators usually are, we more focused on the risks. So more than 70 risks were identified. And there are some quotes there from the document itself. We try to imagine how would a complex regulation of virtual currencies that would take care or mitigate most of the risks, how it would work. But it's, you know, probably you're not surprised if I tell you that it would be very difficult because there's no operator behind it, right? How do you regulate an algorithm that, you know, just it takes care of itself on the network? So, yeah, regulatory approach would be, you know, would require substantial body of regulation, and part of it would be untested. It would be a unique type of regulation, and we were not really convinced it would work. And it would be a long-term project. And basically, we did not recommend it, but we definitely did not recommend to go this way of regulating virtual currencies in a complex financial market style way. The proposal of EBA was, sort of forked into two directions. In short term, it recommended that we, as regulators and supervisors of companies in the financial market, that we discourage them from trading in virtual currencies themselves. And it recommended to the EU regulators, legislators, that they make virtual currency exchanges subject to AML controls, meaning that they have to know who their clients are and report suspicious transactions. In case of Czech Republic, this already happened. From January of this year, Czech AML law states that if you are a person providing services in connection with virtual currency, and the definition of such a person is very broad, actually broader than what the European regulation will say, you are obliged entity as per AML law. You have to have AML controls, you have to know who your clients are, and report the suspicious ones and their transactions, or the suspicious transactions. In case of EU as a whole, the discussions are still ongoing, but as of now, the new AML directive should apply, or the changes should happen soon in the whole of EU. Just the difference, as I said, in the EU, it should apply only to the people who exchange virtual currencies, while in Czech Republic the definition of who is obliged to follow AML law is much broader. Now, in comparison, virtual currency regulation in Germany. I just want to make clear that this is not any kind of legal advice. This is from a nice article from the German regulator that is called BaFin, that was first published in German, and then it was translated into English. So if you're thinking about doing business in Germany, or you are already doing business in Germany, I highly recommend you Google it yourself and read it for yourself, but just some excerpts. And to compare that, in Czech Republic we are generally quite liberal, right? As what I said basically means virtual currencies are not regulated as financial services. In Germany, in comparison, they have an interesting legal concept called unit of account. It's something similar to private money. If you look at German history, they have quite they've been dealing with these groups of people who create their own money for use within a group before the digital revolution happened, basically. So they have this legal concept of unit of account, and Bitcoin actually fits, or virtual currencies actually fit this description. So units of account are comparable to this shorthand, KWG. It's Kreditwesengesetz. It's the law on basically banking law, or law on banks, law on credit provision. And so that's where unit of account or units of account are defined. They're comparable to foreign exchange, with the difference that they're not legal tender anywhere. They're not issued by governments, and they might have physical or digital form. That doesn't really matter. So virtual currencies are not legal tender, are not currencies, not foreign notes or coins, right? That is the same because Germany is in the EU, so it's not funds, as I described already. They're not e-money either, and German colleagues, of course, reached the same conclusion that they do not represent any claims on an issuer, as in their case there is in fact no issuer. So using virtual currencies as substitute for money to participate in exchange transactions does not require authorization. So you can shop with your bitcoins in Germany. You don't need anybody can do that. But if you exchange virtual currencies for real money, often you would require an authorization, and the type depends on the specific business model of the exchange business you would be doing. If you trade virtual currencies commercially in your own name, so that would fall under principal brokering services. So basically, that's if you buy and sell bitcoins, I buy your Bitcoins, I give you euros, that sort of thing. If you run a platform where you allow the users to trade the Bitcoins between themselves or other cryptocurrencies, and you allow the sellers to set a price threshold above which a trade should be executed, then you're operating a multilateral trading facility. I don't really know the regulatory regime for that, but it sounds, quite highly regulated to me. If the platform offers region-specific pay directories of persons or undertakings offering virtual currencies for sale or purchase, that's basically local Bitcoins, right? As I understand it, that usually constitutes a case of investment and contract broking. So once again, local Bitcoins also fall under financial regulation and supervision in Germany. And in case of mining, purchase and sale, I'll probably, reading PowerPoint is a bad habit, so I'll let you read it yourself. But basically, even in this case where you would assume probably that you're not regulated, still in Germany, better to stay on the safe side. Maybe it's better to talk to our colleagues in BaFin. So that's all from me. Thank you for your attention.